Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3, 4. Test, test, test.
I don't see Armenian, do you? Oh, there she is. Sorry. Good evening, everyone. We have about 5 minutes before we start. If everyone can gather a chair.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lucy, and I'm a translator-interpreter for Spanish. I'm going to go ahead and make an announcement now in Spanish. Damas y caballeros, las personas que necesiten escuchar esta reunión en español, sírvanse, por favor, ir afuera de estas puertas y ahí les vamos a recibir con unos auriculares para que escuchen. Muchísimas gracias.
Hello everyone, my name is Aida. I'm the Armenian interpreter and I will do the announcement in Armenian language. Սիրելի ներկաներ, եթե թարգմանիչ պետք ունեք, եթե գնաք այս սրահի վերջում, բաժանում են ականջակալներ, որ ձեզ համար թարգմանիչները կթարգմանեն հայերեն լեզվով։
We'll give them a minute to get the headphones handed out to our constituents that need it. All right, everyone, good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening, either in person or virtually. I would like to thank the Westminster Presbyterian Church for the hospitality of allowing us to use their facility. Tonight's meeting is going to be primarily question and answer. It's an opportunity to do that question and answer to the questions we've received, as well as what you might have out in the audience. One thing I would like to discuss is just a few guidelines. If we could agree on that we won't yell out any comments or questions, that we'll put them on the comment card. That way everybody is able to hear the speakers presenting this evening, as well as can we agree that we'll show mutual respect towards everyone in the room. I have several public information officers around the room. If you have a card that you've written a question on, just raise it and they will come by and grab it, and we'll make sure it gets to the appropriate people. To start it out, I'm just going to give an update briefly of what acreage we're at. We're at 14,021 acres and 81% containment. To start our meeting off, I'm going to ask that the 5th District Supervisor and Chair of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, Catherine Barger.
Thank you and good evening. We're going to get right into the questions, and they've given me 3 that they want me to ask. And first of all, thank you all for being here. The questions that were given to me are best resources for non-English speaking communities. And if any of you have not gone up to the Recovery Center at the PCC campus on Foothill Boulevard, I would highly encourage you to go up there. But for those seeking resources in non-English, we have translators up there that will help you. In addition, if you go to recovery.lacounty.gov, there are translation services there's in different languages as well. So I would encourage you to either go on the web, or I've been up to the center and I feel in person really is the best way to go about it, especially when you've got all the different agencies under one roof. The next question is, are there plans for state, local agencies to scale up the workforce to respond to the cleanup recovery efforts? Absolutely. I've been on the phone with different labor partners, the carpenters, IBEW, who are looking to ramp up apprenticeships because they recognize that we're going to need a workforce to scale up quickly, and they're looking at all options. So I am working on that with all labor unions because we all recognize that we have to start now. The last question is, will we lose Prop 13? That has been a common question among many people, and I will tell you the answer is no. If you build, let's say if you have a 1,000 square foot home and you build a 1,000 square foot home, you will not be reassessed. They will allow you to go up to 120% over what the plan is. So if you had a 1,000 square foot home and you built a 1,200 square foot home, you will not be reassessed. You will keep the value of the home prior to the devastation. And if you want it, yeah, I mean, that is a big deal for a lot of people. I've talked to many people who were concerned that if they rebuild and it's assessed at the current market value, that they wouldn't be able to afford it. And so we're going to be working with the assessor to get that out to individuals so that they know that their assessment will remain as it was pre the fire. Thank you. Now I don't know who I'm going to introduce up here. I made this no political speeches, so I don't know who's coming up next. Who's coming up next? Pastrella?
Oh, I got it.
Oh, okay.
They just
Thank
me
you.
up. Thank you. Next up from the LA County Public Works, Director Mark Pastrella.
Okay, good evening or good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here and to answer questions today. Let me open this up. And so the first question for Public Works is, please describe the debris removal process. Many of you have probably been hearing this. Let me start out by saying, for all questions on debris removal, we've established a number for you. The debris removal hotline is 844 fire debris, or 844-347-3332. 844-347-3332. And you can find out more information at pw.laccounty.gov/debris. And we'll have this out for everyone. In fact, at the front of the church, we have a board that you can get that information right onto your phone. The debris removal process is a two-step process. It is going to be conducted in conjunction with the federal government. EPA is going to be providing the front-end work, and understand the Army Corps of Engineers is being asked to provide the back-end debris removal through their contracting capacity. Los Angeles County Public Works will be the liaison and the administrator of this program for the entire county of Los Angeles. This includes the cities that are also, so it's all the burn area, all the cities within the burn area, the two burn areas. We will be conducting and interacting with EPA as well as with the Army Corps of Engineers. Again, it's a two-step process, and that process is a phase 1 and phase 2 process. Phase 1, you may have heard, is where the EPA will be coming in and conducting assessments of every property along with our county fire department and our health department to determine that what is, if anything on site that is toxic, considered toxic by their definition, that it's removed from the properties. This is happening now. It's already being commenced. We're identifying locations to take these materials and store them safely. And again, EPA will be leading that. Once that program is done on every lot or on your lot will then be certified by EPA that it has been, those toxics have been removed, and then the lot is ready for phase 2, which is debris removal. Debris removal, as I said, will be administered by my department. Los Angeles County will be providing that service to the area. We will be working with the Army Corps. In that process, it's important for me to mention, we will be asking for permission to enter your property to conduct this. It's a voluntary program in which each property owner will have the opportunity to opt in or opt out of this program. However, I do want to mention that it is a requirement of all property owners to clear this debris before they begin any construction on the property. The phase 2 program that we're offering through the federal government in conjunction with LA County will require you to sign up, as I said, to sign a right of entry form, and the sooner you do that, the sooner the program can actually commence. So for more information on that program, please go to the website that I mentioned or call, and we can give you deeper information about how to sign up and the timing of it. I do want to mention something because I do believe that it's important for us to communicate to you what we know when we know it. And right now what I know is that program will take some time. You will not have a cleared lot from some time. And what I mean by some time is potentially anywhere from 6 months to a year for every lot in LA County in this burn area to have the debris removed. That's because we do have people that opt in or opt out. If you opt out of this program, you will be required to have a certified contractor who can do all the testing necessary to ensure the lot can be rehabilitated with no toxics on the lot. So I really encourage property owners to engage and to sign up for this program just as soon as we have those permission forms up. Again, for more information, please call the number that I mentioned. Okay, has damage assessment been completed for Zone Ald Midlothian? The answer is yes. Public Works has completed a rapid assessment of structures within this zone. Please note that this area is no longer under evacuation orders. Visit lacounty.gov recovery for details on any repopulation. Please visit lacounty.gov/recovery for details on repopulation. When will the trails and natural landscape around Altadena get cleaned? This will directly impact the safety of the community. There is yes, that's correct, and the areas that are publicly operated and maintained, like your streets and the street right-of-ways and the trees that are along those right-of-ways, are being assessed currently, and we are being very careful, LA County Public Works, in the Altadena area, that we do not damage any trees that may have survived here. So we're being very careful about the assessment. We're having our arborists go and look at them along with fire department, and making recommendations on whether or not any trimming is necessary. Of course, a tree that presents a hazard to utility workers or to the citizens will have to be removed. Again, I want to assure the citizens of Altadena that I am very, very sensitive to your trees. I know about how much you love them. And we are being careful. In fact, we are being very, very vocal with our utility companies about not trimming trees that don't necessarily need to be trimmed or taken down. And so I'm working very closely, as you can imagine, with Edison on that. Will property safety checks include assessment for debris flow in the event of rain for inhabitable homes flanking scarred hillsides of open space? Yes, the answer to that is yes. We have already began the assessment. The Los Angeles County Flood Control District, under my direction, has already began the process of damage assessment and identifying locations within those channels that protect this area and the dams and reservoirs and underground storm drain. And we are commencing with emergency contracts to fix those portions so that we're ready for any rain that it comes. And then also, you just asked, someone asking here, whether or not we could give hillside advice to homeowners who are on the edge, if you will, right there at the base of the hills. You can call 211 and request engineering advice for debris flows, and our agency will send an engineer to come and look at your properties and give you an assessment and advise you as to whether or not sandbagging is necessary or other materials put in place to divert flows from the home. So please, when you get that, please do make that call and take advantage of that free service. Will the Army Corps of Engineers and others come immediately onto the scene, such as they did in Lahaina, to assess and begin alleviating our toxic load, which would also include the Eaton wash? This is new potential to carry wildfire toxins to neighboring communities. Spot on, spot on. The Army Corps of Engineers will be in my office tomorrow morning. I have a Washington, D.C. general from Washington, D.C. here visiting to scope the mission. And they have also given us the heads up that they are going to bring a colonel from Lahaina who worked in Lahaina to work on your cleanup here. So this is great news because these folks have great experience. And yes, the question of pollution and environmental sensitivity is high on our mind. And our sediment management plan is also a pollution control plan. So we were looking to contain pollution where it sits currently and then move it safely off-site so that damaging debris flows don't also carry pollution to the river system. When will the right of entry permit form be available? Again, go to the number I mentioned for debris removal and you will find that out. And that number again is 844-347-3332. If we build larger, Supervisor, just to answer this, we build larger, how much longer will it take to permit? There will be no difference in the permitting time if you build larger. If you are impacted by this fire, you will also be given special provisions for permitting, and we will set that up with a performance standard for us. I don't have that exact performance standard yet, but I know that it'll be expedited faster than we do now. And we will be working workshops for professionals as well as homeowners on how to use prescriptive building construction, how to get quicker through the system. So we are also calling on all the design professionals to contact our offices to begin the process of standardization and expediting the permitting process here in LA County. And as previously mentioned, I'm currently identifying real estate in the Altadena area for the County of Los Angeles to open up a one-stop center for building construction that will become a permanent amenity to this community. That's the end of my questions.
Thank you. Next up with Los Angeles County Public Health, Dr. Muntu Davis.
Good afternoon, evening, I'm not sure what time it is really. First off, I want to say that, I'm going to speak to questions that are related to 3 different groups. Some of you are going to be in areas that were not impacted by the fire but nearby. Others you may fortunately have intact properties in the fire damaged areas, and then there are others whose properties were destroyed and will have to be removed. So I'm going to try to speak to starting on the outside in areas that weren't impacted directly by the fire. So my questions are going to be related to safety in terms of cleanup, in terms of ash, in terms of properties that may have smoke inside or the smell of smoke inside. So I'm going to try to address all of those, but do it in 3 different groups. So for those of you who are in non-impacted fire areas but next door or near, in terms of going back and cleaning up, in terms of safety, you may go back and smell smoke inside of your property. One of the things I would suggest doing is when you first get there, if the air conditioning is good outside and if there's not a lot of strong wind, open up your property and try to air it out, just to try to see as much of that smoke smell you can get out. In order to protect the indoor air quality, keep your doors and windows closed, especially on those windy days or when you have a smell of smoke or if there's ash blowing outside. Try to keep your doors and windows closed in order to maintain that air quality inside. Change out your air filters and use HEPA or with charcoal preferably in order to filter out odors as well as filter out particles that may be in the air. And run your air conditioners, if you have central HVAC, on recirculate, so it keeps that air filtering inside. It's not pulling outside air, especially if the air conditions are bad on the outside. If you don't have that, using an air purifier, if you have that smoke smell inside of your house, or air purifier or odor remover, may also help in terms of trying to get rid of that odor. Now, for the non-porous or for the porous things that you have in your house, a couch that's fabric or curtains or things like that, if you have that smoke smell in those, you may have to get them professionally cleaned. You can try washing them. You may have to wash them a couple of times in order to get that smoke smell out using a strong odor remover or strong detergent. Those are the things that may help in terms of trying to get rid of that odor. In terms of cleaning up ash, and this is for everybody, really you want to try to do it in the most gentle way possible to not stir it up and have it stir it up in the air and create risk for not only you but for others that may be nearby. So slightly misting, especially on the outside, slightly misting the ash and then gently sweeping it up, getting it into a dustpan, gently putting it in a plastic bag, tying that plastic bag up, and preferably double bagging it so that it doesn't get ripped or torn when it goes into your trash can in order to be taken away in terms of waste. That's a general comment related to cleaning up ash. Now, when you're doing that, of course, ash can have lots of things in it based on the fire. You think about this is not a campfire. Structures were burned, hazardous materials, household hazardous materials were burned, as well as anything that were in those products and those structures. So you want to treat ash as if it's dangerous, not only to your lungs but also to your skin. So wear gloves, long sleeves, long pants, and preferably wear an N95 or a P100 mask to filter out particles as you're doing that cleaning, and wear goggles just to protect your eyes. And please wear sturdy closed-toe shoes in any of this work in order to keep things off of you. In terms of those houses that were intact in fire-damaged areas, now definitely you're probably going to have a stronger smell of smoke. You may have ash, soot, and everything else inside of your property, and it may require more than just you to try to clean that. But the same principles apply in terms of how you clean up and wearing that protective equipment as you clean up as well. Now, thinking about those properties that are completely damaged that may have to be removed, there's going to be a lot that happens with your property. Now, in fire-damaged areas, as you just heard, there will be teams who understand how to deal with household hazardous materials and how to remove those visibly, those that they can see. I do want to say that lithium-ion batteries, say electric vehicles that may have been left there, pose a unique risk, and they want to try to get rid of those. If they see those, lithium-ion batteries may be some other products that you have in your house as well, but if they see those, they're going to remove those before anybody gets to go back in that regard. Now, all of the fire debris, fire-damaged properties, is considered contaminated. Think about the household chemicals that were there, what the chemicals that are in the structures that were there. So all of that does have to be removed within a certain way, and that's what Mr. Priscilla was talking about in terms of folks coming in to actually remove those. But as part of that process, in terms of soil testing, we don't want you to rebuild on something that is contaminated in terms of soil. I believe soil testing is a part of that process and would be excavated and properly disposed of and transported in terms of the cleanup process before you get to that point where it's like you are okay to rebuild and before you go for approval to rebuild. So those things will happen as part of that process. In terms of thinking about septic tanks is another thing that came up. Now, our department, especially in the unincorporated area, we're trying to do a map and understanding in terms of those fire damaged areas where there are septic tanks, and we'll have more information that comes in terms of what the next steps are. We'll have to look and inspect those, but at the moment I don't have an accurate count in terms of what's there, but that's for the unincorporated area. I can't speak to incorporated Pasadena in terms of that process, but do understand that mapping and understanding where those are and trying to provide more information to those folks who do have septic tanks on their properties is something that will be coming up as well. And I think I covered my questions. Thank you.
Next speaker with LA County Office of Emergency Management, Director Kevin McGowan.
Hello and good evening. My first question is, explain how evacuations and emergency notifications are made. Are door knocks and emergency notification tools utilized? So the evacuation process begins with our unified command. In this particular case, it's our county fire partners and sheriff's department partners that are assigned to this geographical location. For the Eaton fire, we were already physically located, the fire department, the sheriff's department, and the Office of Emergency Management in person when the initial start took place. At that point, our fire department partners, along with law enforcement, evaluate where the potential impact area is going to be, and the Office of Emergency Management supports that decision on where to initiate evacuation orders, warnings, or even preemptive alerts to just notify people that there could be potential impacts. In the case of the Eaton fire, this took place initially right when the fire started. We began evaluating in this partnership which areas would be notified. We use every tool available when this notification or when the evacuation decision's determined. For Los Angeles County, that included in-person notifications from response resources that would be available, both fire and law enforcement. It also includes our use of our notification tools. To simplify it, there's a variety of notification tools. There's an opt-in program which sends out text messages. It does phone calls and emails if you've opted into the program. It also uses reverse 911, which are listed phone numbers that are landlines. And then the tool that's probably most commonly understood is the wireless emergency alert tool. So for all of the evacuation orders, warnings, and alerts for the Eaton fire, the suite of tools were used for notifications. How can we sign up for these alerts? We always encourage people to do the opt-in program. The opt-in program provides the most robust access to a variety of tools. That way, if one system fails, this is a natural disaster. Some systems are going to be impacted, such as cell phone towers. Opting in provides you with the access to the largest amount of access to tools. You can opt in by going to alertla.org, and you can register all of your information. There's a question specifically about services available to elderly residents prior to and during an evacuation. For preparedness, I would encourage anyone that's an elderly resident, go to the county's Aging and Disabilities website. You can also contact Aging and Disabilities simply by just going to 211. You can call 211. They will route you to our Aging and Disabilities department, who can give you great advice on how to prepare specifically for your needs. They can also provide that for anyone who has access, functional, and disability needs. And then during an emergency, immediately contact law enforcement and fire via 911. So again, call 211 prior to an emergency. But if you are in an evacuation order and you receive that alert and you need assistance, immediately call 911. Thank you.
Okay, so we've gotten a lot of information. I'm just going to take a quick break so you guys can all soak it in. These people are not leaving, so if you have questions to continue for them, they will get it. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. Next up, I'm going to start into some utility questions that have come up, and I'm going to first start with Pasadena Water and Power, David Reyes.
Thank you, Stephanie, and good afternoon to everybody. David Reyes, Interim General Manager for Water and Power, City of Pasadena, and Assistant City Manager. The City of Pasadena, obviously, we have our own water and power, but we do serve about 4,000 residents in Altadena for water. Currently, there are about 1,200 residents in the Altadena area that are under do not drink orders. You have water, water is flowing, but we ask that you do not drink the tap water at this time. The city's website has all the information in terms of address lookup, so you can actually put in your address and see if you're under the orders. Again, there are about 1,200 residents currently under the do not drink in Altadena, and about 400 residents within the city of Pasadena. We currently have no power outages. There's a smattering here and there that we're addressing and working around the clock to make sure that water is safe. The do not drink orders, you can water your plants. That was a specific question we got. Please water your plants with that water. And the do not drink orders, it doesn't mean that we've identified anything wrong with the water. It means that we need to verify that it is safe. Some of the areas in terms of our reservoirs were damaged more than others, the Don Benito Reservoir in particular. So we're working around the clock to get updates on that, and we expect to release additional information as early as tomorrow afternoon. With respect to the testing, we are working with the State Division of Drinking Water to make sure, although we have our own certified lab, we are making sure before we lift any orders that we are following all of their protocols. And our hearts are with everybody at this time. It's been very difficult, and we're here for you to the extent we can be, and we're reaching out to all of the Altadena water purveyors outside of our jurisdiction to see how we might be able to help them as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up to give an update with Foothill Municipal Water District, General Manager Nina Jasmaridian.
Thank you, Stephanie, and I would like to take this opportunity to also thank all of the firefighters and the county and Metropolitan Water District with everything they've done for the agencies. So I represent the 4 agencies that Foothill sells wholesale water to. They are Las Flores Water Company, Lincoln Avenue Water Company, Kinaloa Water District, and also Rubio Canyon Land and Water Association. We received some questions, and these questions, the answers to these questions actually apply to all of them. And the first question is, for Lincoln Avenue, is there a timeline to restoring water? The water agencies working with Foothill and Metropolitan are removing the debris in the area. There is no timeline for restoring all the water at this point. We are working hard to start restoring the water, working with the Division of Drinking Water to get all of that done. It will be in areas that we're seeing the water restored slowly. For Rubio, what is required to repair the facilities? Will Rubio receive aid from state and federal government? What is the estimated time for return to service? Again, so what's happened is that there's 6 reservoirs that are destroyed, 1 reservoir is damaged, and we are in the process of assessing that, engineering temporary solutions for those reservoirs, and then putting those temporary solutions in place after we've removed debris, and then coming up with the long-term solutions for that. In the meantime, we are working towards those temporary fixes so we can get water to all the customers. And as we get the water to the customers, we're also working with the Division of Drinking Water to lift the do not drink orders from the system. We are applying for FEMA and state funding, and the agencies also are taking imported water, which was one of the questions, where's the water coming from? They're taking imported water from Metropolitan Water District. We get it, we take it, deliver it to the agencies. And they also have groundwater and will be starting to produce from their wells. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up with SoCal Gas, Roger Shawitsky, Chief Infrastructure Officer. It's Shawecki. That was my fault.
Good afternoon, everyone. I've got a series of questions that I'll address. Some of them are very similar, but I'll read them and kind of address them together. One question, why wasn't the gas shut off for almost 48 hours after the fire started? In order for us to shut the gas off in an area, we actually have to go in close to that area, and we were unable to get in those areas because we have to necessarily dig up the street, so it was unsafe to have our employees in those areas. Next question, can SoCal Gas or Southern California Gas Company prioritize their repair and restore efforts to the homes that have been lifted from evacuation orders? Many residents are cleared to go home but have no heat or water. That's a similar question I got that says, how are we prioritizing which areas get restored first? And another question, kind of along the same lines, is it true we're going to restore east to west? So the way we prioritized it is the areas that we could restore the fastest, right, and had the less damage. So that actually started on, when you look at the area, what would be on the east end, in that area of the Sierra Madre, the west side of Sierra Madre, and worked our way in that direction as we restored the service. We can't hop-skip around. We have to use our pipeline system to be able to move the gas through that. It kind of flows all the way through those pipes. So that's how we prioritized it. I would say, and this is kind of the other question, is a timeline for restorations. We are currently now at a situation where we have moved all the way to the west side, and what we're calling, and if there's on our socalgas.com/fires is a map that really identifies where we're at, but we're actually starting restorations all the way across the southern system except for one area up into the western edge where people are currently at. So as we get to those areas and we gas those areas up, you'll see us in full force out there, what we call sweeping the area. And what that means is we're going door to door for people to see if people are home to restore their gas, because we have to have an adult because we have to go in and do the safety checks for the appliances and the house lines. So that's what we do. And we will continue to sweep that area until we touch each home probably 3 or more times. So if you see our crews in the area and you're home, reach out to them and they'll get to you as soon as possible. But once we go through that complete sweep, then we'll leave basically information for you to call our contact center to schedule an appointment for us to come out. That's what we felt is the fastest way to do it, is to have several hundred employees in an area and to restore those areas. So again, we are going from east to west, but we're already on the west side, and the bottom west side where people are at. We should have it on the top west side. Should start restoration tomorrow. And probably there's one area in the middle, and you'll see it on our map. We're calling it our 3B East area, probably in midweek. We'll have gas available for restoration, and that's where we'll come in and basically have a large presence for restoration. So the other question I got is, when was gas line going to be turned on New York Drive and Allen? I don't know specifically where it's at, but if you look on the website, you should be able to drill down and find out where your home is. But it really is across the area. There is one area where the most severe damage is, kind of the top part. We don't have a timeline for restoration because most of the homes have been destroyed. So from that standpoint, we don't have a timeline for that. The other question I got, when can we enter a property and check the appliances? As I mentioned, once we have gas available in the area, we will be able to enter the homes and restore service to those homes. And I think that covers all the questions for me. Thank you.
Next, to respond to some questions from SoCal Edison, Director of Distribution Engineering, Brandon Tolentini. And he's also going to have a Director of Public Affairs with him, Zanku Armano.
Hi, thank you. Zanku Armenian, Director of Public Affairs for Southern California Edison. Before I answer a few questions, I just wanted to pause for a moment to acknowledge the tremendous devastation to the community and say that we completely understand how difficult it is. We have friends, families, colleagues who are equally impacted by the circumstances. We're grateful to all the public safety agencies who have been working hard to get control over this situation, as well as allow for the safe return of people to their properties. We have a role in that as well, and we understand the frustration of not being able to do so, and we're working as quickly and as safely as possible to ensure that we secure our infrastructure so that the public is safe when returning. This is going to be a long journey, but I wanted everyone to know that Edison will be there every step of the way as we overcome these challenges. Having said that, there was one question that came up with regard to why did we not de-energize our lines when the fire originally started, and I wanted to correct that. Question implies that we weren't de-energized, but in fact we did implement our public safety power shutoff procedures. We did de-energize, particularly around the point of origin where the fire started. Those lines were de-energized well over an hour before that fire actually started. There were some additional questions about will public safety power shutoffs continue when the area is re-energized, at least temporarily, and the answer to that is yes, we will continue to use public safety power shutoff protocols to ensure the safety of the community. We do have another Santa Ana wind event coming Monday and Tuesday, so we are in the process of notifying customers who are potentially impacted by that, and if the thresholds are met in terms of the decision-making, we will have to de-energize again for the sake of safety for the public. There was a question that came up in terms of where can we get more information about what Edison is doing in these circumstances. This week, if you go to the sce.com homepage, we did launch a special place, and you can link to it right off the homepage. In terms of, it's a special page called Extreme Weather Restoration Update. So you can get to that through either sce.com directly, or if you Google SCE, Extreme Weather, the direct link to that page will come up. That is where we are posting all information with regard to our restoration and rebuilding efforts. There you can also link to our outage map in terms of immediate status of circuits and who's on and who's off. Finally, I'll share that LA County Public Works stood up an organization this week, a recovery organization. We, along with the other utilities, are part of that organization, and that body will be coordinating all our efforts to make sure we're working well together. And that's just kicked off this past week under Director Mark Pistrella's leadership, and we look forward to that sort of coordination. There's multiple questions that have come up in terms of details about both our restoration and rebuilding efforts. So I'd like to invite Brandon Tolentino, who is our Director of Distribution Engineering. He's going to share in greater detail exactly what we're doing. Brandon?
Thank you, Zanku, and good afternoon, everyone. As Zanku mentioned, I'm going to try to address multiple questions up here. There were multiple questions about our restoration process, when we'll be restored, do we have a very detailed plan, and can you tell me when we're restored, and then how are we restoring power? So I really want to walk through currently where we're at. I'll start by saying, we're very heartbroken by the devastation that we've seen. I toured the area a few days ago as part of the restoration efforts that we are working with our partners on, and it was very difficult to see a lot of the damage and the staggering losses in the area. That being said, in the areas impacted by the fire, where we're allowed to assess the condition of the system, our crews are working tirelessly to clear damage, clear debris so that they can start assessment and restoration efforts. We currently have approximately 8,900 customers out in Altadena and the surrounding areas, but daily we are restoring customers. We continue to work closely with the fire agencies, emergency operations, and other public safety partners and personnel, but we still have a significant amount of work in front of us. We have over 3,500 SCE contractors and mutual assistance people working 24/7, assessing, designing, and restoring and rebuilding, and we'll continue to do that over the next few weeks coming forward here. An exact timeline of full restoration is still being developed, but like I said, we are restoring customers on a daily basis as we are able to, and as we get access to areas to complete damage assessment and repairs, and then ultimately restoration. What I wanted to go through in a little more detail is, what does that look like? What does our process look like for how we get there? And really, the first aspect of that is we need to have access to the areas to do our assessment. So we wait until we get access, and then we send individuals out to assess what was actually damaged, poles, wires, equipment, and they do a detailed damage assessment and determine the condition of our facilities. They'll go out when able and then create a design that our field crews use to rebuild when they get access to the area, to put up new poles, new wire, new equipment to serve our customers. I want to talk a little bit about more detail around prioritization and how we think about restoration in the area. There was a question that Roger answered about, are we restoring east to west, and talk a little bit more detail there. What we look at when we have a grid in a specific area is, if you can envision a tree, we have the trunk, we have large branches, and we have small branches. And that's how our grids are designed, very similar to other utilities across the United States. So when we think about restoration and damage repair, we start by looking at the trunk of the tree, those main arteries that serve major portions of cities and locations, and we look at repairing those as quickly as possible. So that's our primary concern as we come into restoration. And then as we can complete that work, we start looking at the branches. And the larger branches are prioritized first usually. That means we can get more customers up quickly. And then finally we get to those smaller branches that feed into individual homes or individual small streets that have homes. So it can take some time to get to those smaller branches if there's significant damage on the trunk and larger branches of the system. So that's typically how we would prioritize our efforts and how we would restore service in an area such as Altadena where we see a significant amount of damage across the system. Let's see here. And then there were some questions about rebuilding and what we were doing there. There were some questions about use of generation as well as the use of undergrounding potentially. So as we rebuild the damaged areas of the grid, we are looking at all opportunities to add resiliency and reliability to the area as we rebuild. We are using newer technologies. We're using fire-resistant poles where we are installing overhead. We're using covered conductor as well as targeted underground in specific locations. So we are assessing the area for undergrounding, and we're working with our partners again to figure out what options are available and what the feasibility of doing that is. In terms of using generation, it is something we are considering as part of the restoration. But again, we are looking on a case-by-case basis if that makes sense, or if we should spend our efforts looking at actually restoring the grid in that section, then we can do that faster. So we're looking at all options as we restore, whether that's restore the overhead, look at undergrounding options, or utilization of generators. I believe that is the last question. And yes, I believe that covers everything. Thank you.
Okay, so far we're at 45 minutes in of questions. I'm going to do just a little break so that you guys can soak in some of the information you've been given back. And we're going to go into schools. There's been a couple of questions from the school system. So I have Superintendent Elizabeth Blanco with the Pasadena Unified School District to address those questions.
Good evening. I'm joined here by President Jennifer Hall-Lee, Altadena resident this evening that will also say a few words. I want to start out by saying we had a powerful healing event for our community at PCC last Friday, and our DJ said something that I've been hanging on to, that there can be grief and gratitude at the same time. And, you know, I have great grief for all of our families that live in the town of Altadena, the city of Pasadena, and the city of Sierra Madre. Out of our 10,000 children, 14,000 children, 10,000 of them have had their lives impacted by this. Out of our 3,000 employees, 1,400 of them have had their life impacted by this. And we know this because we're able to see the zip codes of the fire zones and the evacuation zones, and we know where people live. We're still reaching out on personal levels with personal surveys, trying to get the exact details. And with that said, my heart is filled with gratitude for our first responders, our local officials, our state officials, the people responsible for running these cities, because they have been on speed dial 24/7. They are really wrapping their arms around the school district while trying to manage all of the things that they're doing to help all of you. We will open schools. Every school will be open by January 30th. We're starting with our first wave next Thursday. Schools farthest from the fire, and I'll read those names to you. So I just want to go over what it takes to open a school. All 24 of our structures were impacted with ash. Windows, old windows, ashes come in even when you have them closed. So we lost 5 structures. One is a structure that was a middle school with public school children from Pasadena Unified. 3 others were structures that housed our charters in a private school, and another structure was empty that we plan to use for swing space for Madison Elementary School to start the bond work this summer. We are ensuring the community, all of these schools, whether they're public charter or they're our district, are going to have a space in our school district. There's been a lot of misperception that we have not been in communication with our charters. We are in communication with them. We were just not able to answer all of the questions everyone had, which was true for our principals as well. So I want you to know that our schools will be open. We have an all-staff meeting on Wednesday, the 21st or 22nd, and we will be opening school for the schools farthest from the fire zone on Thursday and Friday. So what it takes to open a school is we have to go in and we have to clean it. We have 1,500 workers out there for 24 structures that are in 50-foot trucks from 3 restoration companies working around the clock. They have to clean every surface. They have to clean the HVAC systems, which are a little bit more intensive, and we can go back in without them being completely cleaned. It doesn't mean that anything will happen when they're cleaned. People are envisioning stuff falling out of the vents on them. That's not going to happen. We have a team of environmental scientists from our insurance companies that are working with us. So these structures will be cleaned. As soon as they're cleaned, we can do the environmental testing. We have, I think, 4 of the schools, the environmental testing has come back and they have passed already. And so the other ones are in the process of being processed. It doesn't mean they're not passing. So they test the surface structures and the air throughout the whole building. If a school does not pass the test, we clean the whole school again. So we're going in the right direction. Some of the questions that I received are about a plan for Altadena Arts Magnet and Elliott. I assure you we have a plan. We are meeting with our principals. All the furniture is ordered for them. Materials have been ordered. Things will be here by next Wednesday. You know, it's a little complicated with some of the things that we have to co-locate, and some people will have a new building, and we will be releasing that information as soon as we can. We want to get in lockstep with the charters, and we all want to announce at the same time. And our cadence of communication is our Board of Education, our principals, our staff, the school community, and then the greater community. So we're working as fast as we can to assess every situation and make sure that the plans that we are working on can work. So we can't go into the buildings, so we're using maps, right? We have to be very precise on this person was in this room, they're moving to that room, the movers are hired. Everything is moving along very swiftly. This is day 12. I know it feels like an eternity because it feels like an eternity to me. The reason we have not gone to online learning is we don't know how many teachers and students lost devices. I have the same 10 people that are planning the opening of school that would have to divert their attention to gearing up for online learning, and it might create complete chaos because of the loss of devices. We've ordered 5,000 Chromebooks. The day after it happened, we're going to have a deployment for that. We've prioritized, with the stock that we had, Elliott staff. We want to make sure our teachers have devices to teach. So after the professional development day, everybody will be ready to go within 24-hour notice. We're going to prepare our teachers to deal with the social emotional needs of our children. Even in our child care, children were crying and asking their parents not to leave them because they thought they were going to go home and burn up. We know there is a lot of pain out there, and we are prepared to deal with this. We have social workers coming from up north. We have support from LACO and the governor's office for mental health. We are going to take care of your children. That is my commitment, my promise. Your schools will be open by the end of the month. Every school, every community will have a place to go. Another question had to deal with child care, and similar to LAUSD. We've been working with the Boys and Girls Club, Greater YMCA in the area and outside of the area is prepared to take any child from the PUSD. So that is going on. How will playgrounds and child care centers be cleaned up from the toxic materials? I explained that a little bit. 2 days ago, our count was 38 tons of debris has been cleaned up from the outside of 24 places. We've served 5,000 meals to families that are in need. I would ask your help if you have information on how families can get meals over the weekend, because our meal program is Monday through Friday. We did try to give them extra meals for this weekend because it's a long weekend. So what is the range of schools? Will it be considered safe for students to go to school? We are committed not to let anybody in a building that is unsafe or in a neighborhood that is unsafe. We're working very closely with the city. We meet with their EOC every day. We are in contact with the county, the public health, and we have, as I said, a team of environmental specialists that will be helping us make these assessments. I do believe I've answered the rest of the questions that came in. I want to tell you a little bit about the reopening plan. So January 21st is when notification will go to parents. January 23rd, we will open schools that are in phase 1. This information is also in a PowerPoint that was posted for our last board meeting in case you need it in writing. So Hamilton Elementary will be open, Willard Elementary and Children's Center, Blair Middle and High School, San Rafael Elementary, McKinley School, Rose City, the Center for Independent Study located at the Wilson campus, Pasadena Adult Living Schools, which is a program that serves adults with disabilities, Twilight Adult School, and Avison Global Leadership Charter. So that's approximately 34 students, TK through 12, that will be invited back to come to school on Thursday, and they will return on January 23rd. The next phase of schools next 2 phases, we're not releasing the names because it's fluid, right? Somebody might pass a test earlier, so I'll tell you the dates and know that the rest of our schools and the rest of our charters will return somewhere between these dates. So January 26th, we're going to send notices to families. January 27th, we will open 11 schools, 3 programs at all the children's schools and 1 charter school. January 29th, notice January 30th, there'll be 5 schools and the rest of our charter schools. So this is based on the locations and the cleaning. It does take a little longer to clean schools that were closer to the fire and that are bigger in scope and size. And that's why phase 1 and 2 will be a little more fluid, depending on the cleaning efforts. Once the cleaning efforts are done, then we can go right in. We have a testing lab that will give us the results back within 24 hours in most cases. So I hope that I was able to answer most of the questions that came in. We do have 2 things that are very important. We have a website that's www.pusd.us/fire relief. We're putting all the latest information on there daily. And we are accepting donations through the Pasadena PEF, Pasadena Educational Fund. That information is also on the website. What we're learning right now is that our families need money and gift cards. Many of them don't have a place to put stuff. They needed some stuff in the beginning, but now, they really need to be able to have some autonomy to rebuild their lives and get the things that they need. So we've already started pushing out funds for that. So thank you for anybody who's been able to give a donation. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Hawley.
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Hall Lee. I am the board president for the Pasadena Unified School District, which means I lead the governance team for the school district. And I am an Altadenan. It feels really good to be here right now. And I just want you to know that the entire Board of Trustees is walking with you during this very difficult time. We are here for every Altadenan. We are here for the Altadena Town Council, and we are here for you through all of this. And thank you very much.
All right, we're going to do a small transition right now just to give our guests a chance to read some of the questions coming in. I'm going to ask that we have an operational update from Jed Gaines as well as a weather update since we have some incoming weather information for you guys. And then we'll get back to the question and answers. Let me shut this one off really quick.
All right, good evening. I'll give you guys a kind of an operational update of what we did when the team first came in and to where we are now. So the fire started on that Tuesday evening, and it grew at a rapid rate, as you guys know, and we started the evacuations. Early on, an incident management team was ordered. That was the federal Team 5 that was ordered. They came in and took command of the incident on Wednesday. And then due to the complexities of this incident and the destruction, a second incident management team was ordered, and that's when CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 3 came in. And we were coming in to help with a lot of the destruction response of this and to help get that stuff coordinated and moving forward in a direction and assisting LA County. We got control line all the way around this fire. The fire here, the black line shows the controlled contained line on here. The red line is kind of it's not quite contained yet. It still has some heat in there that we're still working and monitoring. Some of these areas around Wilson, top of Mount Wilson and Winters Canyon over here, it's just very, very steep, rugged terrain. We're having a difficult time getting firefighters in there just because it's so steep and dangerous. So we're continuing to use our helicopters and our fixed wing aircraft in there to monitor that and put that out. We have a mobile retardant base that we have set up on top of Mount Wilson that the helicopters are able to suck the retardant out of, and then you drop that in those areas to extinguish that fire. We monitor that with our infrared technology. We have multiple infrared flights a day, including our helicopters that have it, our fixed wing aircraft, and our drone teams that we have assigned as well that can monitor that and really pinpoint the exact location of where that heat is. So those are still areas that we're working and continuing to work on the Angeles National Forest. As you go around the fire, everything else is looking really good. We're still monitoring it. We have firefighters assigned 24/7 on this incident. They're out there all day, all night working. Down into around the community piece. So this fire is 14,000 acres, just over 14. Approximately 4,000 acres of that is within the neighborhoods. So that's a very large footprint of homes that we've been dealing with in here. Because of the destruction, it was determined early on that we needed to search every home in here. There was still missing people, so we brought in urban search and rescue crews throughout the state of California and worked in conjunction with the Sheriff's Department's search and rescue teams. So we broke those up into 3 different groups, a total of about 400 personnel, and in 6 days we were able to conduct almost 9,000 searches, over 1,100 grid miles of search patterns that were done with human remain dogs and anthropologists assigned to those teams to get that done. That needed to be done prior to sending in utility companies and starting that rebuild infrastructure piece. So we are very happy with the success of what we did and how quickly we were able to get that done. Everything went very well. Went very well, so we were able to get a lot of those teams reassigned over the Palisades fire and start assisting them in that same process. So we got that completed, which allowed our utility companies, our damage inspection teams to go in. We worked collaboratively with all of the agencies involved, and we went in and as we would clear an area with our urban search and rescue teams, we would allow the utility companies to start coming in. The fire department the fire engines out there at the same time would start mopping up and putting out and extinguishing any heat that was still left in around any of those structures. We had to identify any hazardous materials out there. I'm sure you guys know we had some lithium battery issues that we had to mitigate with the hazmat teams. Those have all been mitigated. Now we just have to work on the removal and where that's going to go. At the same time we were doing all that, we had another red flag warning come over last week. So we had to build our alternate and contingency lines that we're also putting in place just in case something was to come out from this upper area here and get established. And then we were concerned about the community of La Cañada. So we had to get those plans built in place with that and also prepping around the community of La Cañada, working with the NASA JPL facility, preparing around that structure as well, and getting that cleaned up and ready just in case this did happen or a new start happened. So we are still dealing with that today. As you guys know, there's a red flag warning that's issued for tomorrow through Tuesday night. So we are preparing for that. We have extra resources on hand. We still have multiple helicopters assigned to this incident for our need if anything was to happen. We are confident that this fire is going to stay within the current footprint that it sits today. But we are concerned if there are new starts in the area, and if there are, we're willing to support LA County in any way we can with some of the resources we have to mitigate any new starts. This little piece of red line that you see down here at the south end of Altadena, we will have that buttoned up by the end of today. So that map will change tomorrow. That is our main goal, is to get that done and extinguished there. With that, there was a lot going on, a lot of collaborative efforts. We have repopulation meetings twice a day that all agencies make decisions on and work that out, and we're trying to get folks back as soon as we can. We have to work with the utility companies for the make safe operations. Our biggest concern in here is to make this safe before we allow people back. Even when you get back in there, you have to remember there's a lot of rubble, a lot of debris. You need to make sure you're wearing the proper footing. You have to have the right clothing. You've heard a lot of that tonight in these, but it's very important that you have that protective shoe wear and the protective gloves on when you get back into these homes, especially if they were damaged or destroyed. Our damage assessment teams have completed their process that was completed today. There's might be a few little cleanup pieces, but all that's available on the LA County's website on damage assessment. You'll notice sometimes there'll be two structures. So if you had a detached garage, that also counts as a damaged or destroyed structure. So some houses, some lots will have two structures on there, and that is why we had to count anything with a foundation and is over 120 square feet is counted as a structure of some sort, and it's noted if it was an outbuilding or a structure. So that's why some of those numbers you'll see on there. I think that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Next with the weather update, Dennis Burns.
Good afternoon, everybody. Jed kind of touched on it. The National Weather Service has issued a red flag warning beginning tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock and continuing through 10 o'clock on Tuesday evening. As part of that, they've issued what's called a particularly dangerous situation. That is from 10 o'clock tomorrow morning until noon on Tuesday. The forecast is we could potentially see winds down here in the valley, the 20 to 30 mile range with gusts to 50, up on top of the fire and kind of out through to the west, and we're looking at the potential to 80 to 100 mile an hour gusts. So the line for the PDS basically runs down the 210, and then a little bit north off the map and then kind of makes a hook and runs out to the coast through Ventura and the Malibu area. Even without a fire start, there's some significant concerns with that because of the winds. We're talking more trees down, particularly in the fire area. We now have fire damaged trees, so we may see more trees coming down as a result of that. So it's just something that, obviously our firefighters are going to be briefed on, but you as a general public, speaking with our meteorologist who had to be at another meeting, this is basically one tick below the January 7th event. So, and it just depends on where the low pressure and the high pressure systems that actually cause these wind events kind of line up as to the areas that are going to see the largest impact. Then leading beyond Tuesday evening, in all probability, the Weather Service is going to continue with a red flag warning. Everything's lining up. Those will most likely continue through probably till Friday morning, but in the wake of these offshore winds, we're going to see the relative humidity, the dryness that we have to deal with, drop down into the single digits. We'll see that through Tuesday and probably all the way through Friday morning. There is a slight hint that potentially next weekend we may see some precipitation, but 7 days ago, yesterday, they were talking there was a potential for participation yesterday. It never happened, so it's kind of out in fantasy land. So we'll just kind of say our prayers that maybe we'll get a little bit of rain, but not too much that these hillsides can't deal with. That's it for the weather briefing, but I'll be around if anybody has any questions after the meeting.
I wanted to make sure there was no feedback. All right, so that was our little break. We're going to go in. We have a few more questions that we're going to get to, and then we're going to close it out. I'd like to ask for Assistant Chief Ron Durbin to come up with LA County Fire. He's going to address some defensible space questions that you all had presented.
Good evening. My question is, what are 3 things homeowners can do for firefighters to have a best chance to save their home? I'll give you 3 things to start with. Home hardening, be really careful around that first 5 feet around the structure, and sufficient defensible space. One of the key things all homeowners should know is that first 24 to 48 hours is when we lose structures. What you're trying to do with these 3 things is to make your structure standalone while we mobilize and get resources out there. So what can you do for home hardening? For new construction, you'll end up building to Chapter 7A standards. So your roof will be Class A, non-combustible. You'll have double pane windows. You'll have non-combustible siding and enclosed eaves. For a retrofit, right, you have an existing home that you want to harden. What do? Your goal is to prevent ember intrusion. And what you'll do is you'll look at your screens and vents. If you have 1/4 inch, you'll change that to 1/8 inch or smaller, possibly 16 inch. You'll look at your siding. If you have combustible siding, you'll switch that out to non-combustible siding. You want to caulk and seal any openings to prevent ember intrusion, particularly around windows and doors. Again, just like the Chapter 7A with new construction, you'll go back and try to enclose or box in your eaves. If you have single pane windows, you want to switch those out to double pane windows. And the goal again is non-combustible materials on the structures to prevent ember intrusion. One of the things that we found, and you'll see it if you're driving around the fire, garage doors are really susceptible around the seal, right? So they crack, they get old, and they open up gaps, and that's where embers can get in, get underneath and into the garage. And the other place is around the eaves and the edges of the structure around the roof. If you have a vinyl rain gutter, you want to switch that out to a metal rain gutter. Let's talk about the first 5 feet. This is probably the most important area on your structure that you have to be really careful with what's there. So you should remove, if you have vines and climbing plants on your structure, all of those should be removed off the structure. These are super receptive. They will catch embers and ignite the structure, particularly when the wind is blowing severely. You want to limit any vegetation at the foundations of the structure. Remove or relocate barbecues, trash cans, patio furniture, anything that's combustible on the structure. You just have to move it away from the structure. You also need to limb up trees by removing the lower branches, particularly the ones that overhang the structure and drop leaves onto the top of the structure that could end up being combustible. Again, clean out your rain gutters. And then, again, this first 5 feet, if you have a wood fence that's, you want to switch that out to a non-combustible fence, right? It's just like a wick. So it starts out in the field, goes around your house, it catches the wood, and then if it gets to that non-combustible fence that you've switched out, that will stop the progression. So let's talk a little bit about defensible space. Again, first 5 feet in D-space, critically important. Then we have 3 basic things about defensible space. We want to remove any dead or dying vegetation within 200 feet. We want to limb up our trees and shrubs 6 feet or 1/3 the height, so we separate vertical and horizontal continuities. And we want to cut any dead grasses down to 3 inches. If we do those basic things, right, you have a great chance of protecting and saving your house. And then as we go out away from the structure, from that 30 feet to 70 feet to up to 200 feet for LA County, we want to have a break in horizontal and vertical continuity, so we have groups of shrubs and separation. And then finally, access roads. We need 10 feet on each side of the road, so we have opportunities for the fire department to come and save your house. If you think about these things, when you're doing defensible space, you're thinking lean and green, right? Healthy, lean, green. So all the dead's removed. And if you do all of these things and you have a well-maintained house and structure, we have a great chance of protecting and saving your home. Thank you.
Thank you. To address a few questions in regards to FEMA and SBA, Public Affairs Special Nicole Wilson and Mary Ann Bradfield.
Good morning, Nicole Wilson, FEMA Public Affairs Specialist. We have a couple of questions that we will jump right into. The first one, if my home wasn't damaged other than smoke inside and the roof, will I be able to get a loan or better yet, a grant? Let me make it very clear to everybody here, FEMA is here on the ground and we offer grants to help jumpstart your recovery. The money you get from FEMA does not have to be repaid. As of this morning, we had put $32 million in grant money in the hands of survivors right here in LA County. And so I just want to make sure that you guys understand that what you receive from FEMA, you do not need to pay back. It is a grant. As it relates to loans, I want to have Mary come up and address that. The Small Business Administration is actually the largest source of disaster funds, and many people do not know that they offer funds to homeowners and renters as well as business owners. I'm going to let Mary address that, but there is another question for the SBA, which I'll also have her address. What is the plan to help businesses with structures that didn't get damaged, but now they pretty much lost all their client base in the community? They say no one is talking about that. Business owners don't get any help from insurance companies or FEMA. They still have operational expenses like rent, salary, etc. Mary is going to address that for us really quickly.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. Nicole's wonderful to work with. I follow her a lot. First of all, for your home, SBA loans for homeowners and renters and businesses and nonprofits are actually for what FEMA, insurance, and other sources do not cover. So it is possible, if another source does not cover that, that we might be able to help you with a low-interest, long-term loan. I would encourage you to visit one of our customer service representatives to get some guidance on your situation. And then, The good news for the small business and nonprofit community is that yes, if you've experienced economic injury, whether you experienced physical damage to your property or not, we have economic injury disaster loans that can potentially help you with those operational costs that will help you get moving forward and on your feet.
Thank you very much, Mary. As I just wrap my comments, I just want to remind this community that FEMA is here. We understand that this recovery process is a long and challenging process. We are here to help provide grant funds to help jumpstart that recovery process for you. If you have already applied for FEMA assistance and if you have received assistance, we ask that you keep in touch with us. Let us know if your situation changes. If you have not yet applied for FEMA assistance, there are multiple ways you can do that. You can do that online at disasterassistance.gov. You can call us at 1-800-621-3362. You can also use the FEMA mobile app to apply, or you can visit one of our disaster recovery centers. That's at the UCLA Research Park and at the Pasadena City College Education Center. I always say, and I'll end with this like I always do, those DRCs offer a whole community approach to helping this community recover. FEMA can't do it by ourselves. We have so many agencies at those recovery centers. It's a whole community approach focused on the whole person, and we are just grateful to be here to help you in this journey.
We've also received some requests or questions in regards to air quality, so I'm going to ask for Air Quality Advisor Katie Cashry to come up.
Hello, everyone. My first question, water, soil, and air testing. What is being done and where are the results posted? As we heard from our LA Public Works, this is going to be a 3-step approach. Phase 1 is going to be hazardous materials removal, and that's going to be more like paint cans, old propane cans, and lithium batteries. That's the first phase. Once we get into the second phase, that's going to be the debris removal. As we heard, this could take 6 months to a year to complete. Before phase 2, I would not expect any testing to be done by the government agencies. If there are updates, you can find them at the recovery.la.gov website, and because this is such a future-looking responsibility, we are still in the planning phase on who is going to be covering these tests. As you heard from our FBAN, we do have a fire weather watch tomorrow. And with that question, with the wind event coming, should I be concerned with air quality downwind? The short answer, yes. That movement is going to kick up the ash and the dust that has settled in the debris zones and just downwind of the fire. During these times where you experience high wind, you should also be air aware. So make sure that you check out fire.airnow.gov. That will give you the most up-to-date AQI values. And whenever the AQI exceeds the orange or unhealthy for sensitive groups range, if you see smoke, if you smell smoke, or if you see ash, make sure that you're wearing a mask. Make sure that you're probably wearing some eye protection too. This dust is going to be big enough that it could cause some eye damage. I would definitely make sure to stay indoors at all possible. If you must go outside, make sure that you have the appropriate PPE. Finally, what about my pets? Is the hazardous air quality for me also hazardous for them? The short answer, also yes. The EPA has a lot of guidance regarding how you can be air aware for your pets as well. You can do that by Googling the EPA Smoke Ready Toolkit. And that will give you fact sheets not only on how to protect yourself from the ash, but your pets, your home, and even your livestock. For folks that are here in person, we have these ash brochures printed out and ready for you in the lobby. Thank you very much.
Okay, we did have one question in regards to waste management, and we do have a party by the name of Matt Blackburn with Universal Waste System that works in the Altadena area to address that.
Good afternoon, Matt Blackburn with Universal Waste. So I have a few questions here. First one is how to request replacement carts if yours have been lost, either melted or blown away in the winds. You can do that by contacting our office or through email. And by Monday, we will have a Google form on our website that's directly for Altadena, so you can fill it out online and not have to wait. The phone number to call is 800-631-7016. To email, it's customerservice@uwscompany.com. And the website is www.uwscompany.com. We also have customer service reps in the back that can help take those requests for anyone that's here in person. Additionally, we were asked about collection. So currently we're dumping all 3 trash cans at the same time. So as you go back home with spoiled foods and things like that, you can fill all 3 of the trash cans. They'll all be collected at the same time through at least next week. We have 1 or 2 trucks that are working on every service day, every day. So our goal is to make it through the community every day in each area so that you don't have to leave that in the containers out front. After your trash cans have been emptied, and if there's no more food, nothing else that needs to be collected, we'd ask you to put them away so that the trucks can make it through the whole community every day and try to keep food and rotten waste off the streets. Let's see here. And then the last question is about anybody that lost their home in the fire that needs to cancel service or request refunds. We have a Google Doc on our website that's specific to Altadena. You can fill out that form. Our customer service agents will close the account, set up the containers to be removed, and issue refund checks immediately. So there's no need to call. You can call, but you don't have to. That's all set up, and no proof or anything required. Just fill out the information, and we'll get that back to you. So that's everything I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm just going to go down the line and make sure that everyone that received a card, that the question was answered. I do believe Public Works has a follow-up question. I will ask Mark Pastrella to come up.
This question was regarding swimming pools and other structures. Specifically was the swimming pool requirements when a home is burned and the pool is still there. So this leads to a little bit larger question of when you repopulate or when you go back to your property, the property will have either a green tag, yellow tag, or red tag on it. It's a placard with my signature or the building official's signature on it for Altadena. What these tags mean are specific to your property. So again, before you return to your home, I want to just touch on what has to happen. We have to have all fire hotspots must be fully extinguished. Urban search and rescue operations need to be completed. Roads must be cleared of hazards such as downed power lines, fallen trees, and broken glass. Streets and road infrastructure must be repaired and made safe for travel. Utilities, including water, electricity, gas, and sewer systems must be made safe. Homes and other structures must be evaluated for fire damage and structural weaknesses and potential for collapse. Pools and other side structures also have to be looked at to make sure that they are not a hazard for you or your children to be occupying the property. A red tag building means the building is unsafe to occupy. Very clear. It actually states on the tag that you cannot enter that structure, and it's actually against the law to enter the structure if it's red tagged. If you intend to enter into a red tag building, you need to notify the building official immediately, call my office immediately to ask about entry into it. Severe structural damage or other hazardous conditions may make it dangerous for entry for use. Our system, so on a yellow tag structure, which is a little more dubious, if you will, there'll be specific instructions on a yellow tag. For instance, back to the pool. If we find pools that are out on a property and there's no other structure there, we're going to require that the pool be fenced before anyone occupy the property. So if you come there and you're seeing that yellow tag, it's total caution that there is hazardous conditions on site, and you need to get more details about what is hazardous. We write as much detail as we can on the yellow tag, but you should contact the number on the tag to find out more about what we found so that you can occupy the site safely. Pools that are left with water in them can become hazardous, one, for children falling in them, two, for mosquitoes. So mosquito abatement will be very active in the area very shortly. Vector control will be involved as well, and you will get notifications of that. So again, all structures that are left behind have experienced some damage. They are in some state of need of repair. We have investigated all of those. In fact, we've done over 10,000 homes already. I had a number here. We've basically done Altadena and completed Altadena for damage assessment. We're currently tagging all of them appropriately. As you repopulate, we will not let you repopulate until we've actually done that investigation. So when you get there and find the card, that'll give you the occupancy level you're at, red, yellow, or green. Thank you.
Just want to make sure I got everyone. Did anybody else have a follow-up question, or we're all good? All right.
There was a question about access to mental health support. I encourage everyone to visit the Recovery Center. We have mental health support through the county's Department of Mental Health present. In addition, you can contact 211. I want to make this as easy as possible and not give a lot of phone numbers out. You can contact 211 and they will provide you directly to the county Department of Mental Health's crisis hotline. So again, go to the Recovery Center for in-person contact or call 211. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, we do have one follow-up for public health.
One of the follow-ups, and then I'm going to make a couple of comments that I didn't make earlier that I should. One of the questions was whether or not people should replace their furniture, that may have a smoky smell in it. And I think it's really a personal decision in terms of whether or not you can get that out. There are also questions around, is it safe to go back and live, after all of this? Everything that's going to get done in terms of debris removal, hazardous material removals, is to decrease the risk in terms of that. Excavating the soil, testing the soil, is all to decrease the risk that you may have been exposed to or what you might be exposed to if that's not done. But again, these questions about whether or not to go back, what to replace, are really personal decisions. We can talk about the risks related to those. We can talk about how to try to clean up, smoke smell, et cetera. And really, those are those questions you're going to have to sort of figure out as you move forward. But again, we're giving you all of the tools and actions to take to try to reduce that risk, reduce your exposures, et cetera. One thing that I did not mention in terms of protective equipment, if you are going into a fire damaged area, you're inspecting fire damaged or destroyed property, you want to go through and look for personal items. We also recommend wearing a suit or having clothing that you dedicate for doing that. So that when you're going in and you're going through that ash and wearing all your other protective equipment, that you're not getting it on your clothes as much as possible. In order to support that, we have gotten donated Tyvek suits, and we are at checkpoints in terms of public health staff to, one, remind you of the warnings in terms of going into those fire damage areas, to remind you what to do in terms of wearing the protective equipment, and again, providing donated suits that you can wear when you go to do that. Now, how many of you remember everything that you hear the first time that you hear it? Right. You've gotten a lot of information, from all of us up here, and I would encourage you to go to our websites in terms of the various departments to look for that information or be reminded of some of the points that have been raised. One of the things that we have done in terms of public health, we do have a frequently asked questions that came up at other events that we provided responses to. So all of the information that I've told you is going to be in writing as well. It'll be on our website we have one that's frequently asked questions related to cleanup after a fire. And our website is ph or publichealth.lacounty.gov. Again, ph or publichealth.lacounty.gov. And that frequently asked questions is up there. Also, at the disaster resource centers, we do have staff that are, one, helping folks who need access to medications, also trying to answer these questions that I'm answering up here for you. So if you have a question related to public health, you can always go there. If they don't have the answer, know that they'll bring the question back to our department. We'll add it to our list of frequently asked questions. So again, if you are recording this and you say, well, I wanted to answer this, see what that answer was, it may take you forever to get to that section or go through this whole thing, but we've tried to at least make those questions answered in writing on our website, and we'll continue to update that. So thank you.
Okay, I think we're done with our follow-ups. Next up, I'd like to ask for from the LA County Fire Department, Chief Maroney and Assistant Chief Springle.
So good evening. I'm going to be answering 4 questions, but before I start it, just on behalf of our 5,000 incredible firefighters and fire department staff, I just wanted to pass on our sincere condolences to everybody here who either lost a loved one, a neighbor, or a friend. Also, to those of you who lost your home or your business, whether it was destroyed or damaged, for that, I, as your fire chief, am very, very sorry. I have Pat Springle with me. He's your assistant fire chief for the Altadena area, and he'll be able to answer some specific questions and also give some firsthand testimonial as he was in the neighborhood as this community conflagration raged through Altadena with 80 to 100 mile an hour winds, hurricane force winds associated with a wildland brush fire. Community conflagrations are rare, but we've now experienced one not only here at the Eaton fire, but also at the Palisades fire. The first question, why was there no fire engines on my block in Altadena on night 1 and day 1 of the fire for protecting structures? The LA County Fire Department, the Pasadena Fire Department, the Angeles National Fire Department, we had a very significant response to this fire incident. We had many, many engines that responded and were in the neighborhoods as that fire transitioned from the foothills into the communities that were devastated. But we did not have enough engines to be on every street to protect structures. You heard earlier, somebody spoke about the 1,100 miles of the street network in Altadena. Even if we just wanted to put 2 engines on every street, that would require 2,200 engines. And trying to get 2,200 engines the first night and the first day while we were competing with the Palisades fire would have been very difficult. Personally, I did make the call to the California Office of Emergency Services, their fire chief, Brian Marshall. When I was driving from the Palisades to the Eaton fire, I requested 250 engines with 1,000 personnel to come to Los Angeles to assist. I also want to point out, LA County firefighters save lives first and protect structures second. Up until this point, we've lost 17 community members that are not with us anymore. That is 17 too many. There were 17 people we could not rescue. So structure defense, structure protection was our second priority, but I have to tell you, as a lifelong firefighter, trying to put out a structure fire with 80-mile-an-hour winds is nearly impossible, and it certainly takes more than one fire engine. The second question, what can we, along with the LA County Fire Department, do to make sure this does not happen again? So this community conflagration that I discussed. When we rebuild, not if we rebuild, Altadena, it must be a fire-wise community. Like Chief Durbin spoke, we have to start with the most up-to-date LA County Fire Code, which is going to provide defensible space for homes and businesses. It's going to provide home hardening for homes and businesses. We want to create a community that is standalone, and we must manage the wildfire ecosystem that's in the foothills above our communities and homes. We have to make a community that can withstand 80 to 100 mile an hour winds associated with a wildfire. It can be done. We do have examples of structures that survived, and I do not believe that there were any fire trucks there that night trying to extinguish the fire around those homes. But we really need to start with structure hardening. My third question, is mud and debris flow on LA County Fire Department's radar, and what are you doing to prepare for the rains that will come? So we are working with our CAL FIRE partners. We're going to partner with the Department of Public Works. We're going to be prepared for mud and debris flow. We've done it before. We're going to do it again. We're going to be in this community for the next several months, not only supporting the recovery process, but also preparing for the next rain. The last question, what role, if any, will LA County Fire have in our recovery process? The recovery process is going to be the rebuilding process. LA County Fire Department is one of the 4 permitting agencies in LA County. We will partner with DPW, the LA County building official. We will be reviewing plans for new construction to ensure that they meet the LA County Fire Code requirements. This will be your best guarantee that your home is going to survive. With that, I would just like to ask for a very short opportunity for Pat Springle. He's one of our esteemed colleagues. He's an excellent assistant chief. He was there that night, and I'd like him to just give a very short, less than 1 minute overview on what he observed, because as I talked to the commanders, as I talked to the firefighters that were in this area, this was the worst fire incident that they've ever experienced. And I'm grateful that we didn't lose more people, but 17 is too much. One home or business being destroyed or damaged is too much. We have to come together to make sure that this does not happen again. Thank you. Pat?
Thank you, Chief. So again, Pat Springle, representing the community of Altadena. I'm a resident in the community of Altadena. My kids go to school in Altadena, and I am heartbroken. I will say, though, this incident was like no other. 32 years on the job, and I've never experienced anything like it. The initial report coming out of Eaton Canyon for the first arriving engine companies that went on scene was 10 acres, moving quickly, threatening structures, threatening the structure of Eaton Canyon Nature Center. 10 acres, just for reference, is 10 football fields of fire, moving quickly, ready to impact structures. First structure it hit was Eaton Canyon Nature Center. Along with that, it started bumping the structures of Kenaloa Mesa. Quickly after that, Altadena up towards Pinecrest. We had a ton of help out there with assisting agencies. Verdugo cities of Pasadena, Sierra Madre, Monrovia, United States Forest Service, and ourselves, along with our partners from law enforcement. In 5 to 6 minutes, this went from a wildland fire to a firestorm. It was a wildland fire for about 5 minutes, and then it started burning residential structures, commercial structures, uncontrolled, pushed by that 80-mile-an-hour wind. For reference, an 80-mile-an-hour wind is a Category 1 hurricane strength, and it burned for about 12 hours straight. We didn't have aircraft, we didn't have dozers, so it was very difficult to keep the fire narrow. That prevented us from controlling the lateral spread, and before we knew it, we had miles worth of fire in both directions. The streets were chaos with residential and commercial buildings burning, limited to zero visibility, down wires, blowing debris. We had blowing debris the size of golf balls or larger. Embers were flying and starting new fires 4 to 5 blocks away. We had vehicles all over the street. We had people trapped in vehicles. We had residents confused on the street. We had residents wandering the streets, not knowing what to do. We had residents refusing to leave. It was horrific. I know my community really well in Altadena, and I knew we had a large number of elderly residents that weren't going to heed the warning. I knew that many of them wouldn't get the warning, number one, and I knew that many of them may not know what to do if they did get the warning. Law enforcement worked to warn residents via way of public address announcements, evacuating residents and rescuing as needed. Fire resources that came into the operational were organized and given priorities. Number one, rescue, like our fire chief talked about. Always number one is life rescue, extracting people and getting people out. Number two was protect and save structures, and it's exactly what I told my engine companies when they came into the area. Your number one priority is life rescue. Your number two priority is protect and save structures. Decisions were made all night long, whether to save a life or save a structure. Fire and Sheriff's Department answered thousands of calls for service that night. Many of them were the address and people trapped. Many of them were the address and the house burning. Fire and law enforcement were quickly overwhelmed and outgunned. Fire spread to the east and the west over 6 miles, from Lincoln on the west to Santa Anita on the east. That's over 6 miles. That went on for 12 hours until finally the wind broke. A couple additional challenges that we had. We got 2 large convalescent homes that were threatened with fire that we were forced to evacuate. The first is Park Marina, 250 plus residents. The second is Montecedro, 300 plus residents. Again, both those convalescent homes were immediately threatened with fire, forced an immediate evacuation of both. So to end, I know I went a little bit over a minute, Chief, sorry. But again, our heart goes out. I'm proud of the fire department. I'm proud of the sheriff's department, and I'm proud of the community of Altadena. We'll rebuild together, and you have my promise that we will be with you in lockstep, working towards rebuild. Thank you.
Next up to address some questions with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Luna and Jabari Williams, captain of the Altadena station.
Well, following that's not going to be easy. But I got to tell you, I am very proud to say that I am part of the Los Angeles County family, and working with Chief Maroney and all the members of the LA County Fire Department. As I address you, I'm going to go through certain points, and then Captain Jabari, who many of you know extremely well, will be up here with me to help answer any questions. As stated before, it is not lost on me why we're here. The fact that there are 17 of our community members who are not here with us today. And we are currently looking for 20 other missing neighbors of ours that aren't here. So as we talk about our efforts, that's at the very top of our priority list. But I am honored. My name's Robert Luna. I'm the Sheriff of Los Angeles County. And I'm honored to represent the men and women of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. And I don't want to repeat everything that has been done here, but Jabari, who is the captain of the Altadena station, was working that evening. And I want him in a little bit to recount his experience of what he saw and how many lives our deputy sheriff saved that night with our partners from LA County Fire. A lot of people put their lives at risk. So when I tell you that I honor the 17 that aren't here, it breaks my heart to say that they're not here, because our men and women tried everything they could that night to make sure they saved their lives. And yes, we've been asked the question, what can you have done better? I consider myself in the middle of this fight with heroic men and women. At one point, we will be looking back. We have to. What can we do better? And I'm sure there will absolutely be lessons learned. So I do also want to share with you that as I have visited our Altadena deputies, it's difficult for many of them to have a conversation with me because they are part of this community. And they're hurting because a lot of the people that are missing are people that they worked around or worked with. So I can tell you that they are fully committed to the work that they do. Many of them live here. Many of them obviously work here. And we'll be with you and with them every step of the way. I do need to let everybody know that our Altadena station was temporarily closed. There were complaints to OSHA. OSHA came in, did an inspection. There are certain things, a list of things that we have to do to make sure that's open. I believe, I'm hoping, we're going to get all these things done, and the station should open the earlier part of this coming week. And our Altadena deputies don't want to go anywhere else. They want to be here with you, and they want to go through this with you. So we'll do everything we can, and I do want to thank our facilities and Public Works. It's helping us get the water running, electricity back to the station, and all those things that all of us need to get this community running. But you need to have a sheriff's station right here that you can depend on, and I promise you, you're going to have that. There's been a lot of conversations and a lot of the cards coming forward regarding repopulation. And I can assure you that every conversation that I'm involved in, and I'm involved in at least 4 or 5 a day, where we're talking about our missions for the day, our operational objectives, looking around the corner to see what's next. Every conversation that takes place does include the repopulation portion of it. But I can assure you, we want to get you back to your homes as soon as possible. We're very sensitive to that. But I think you've heard pretty clear up here from different partners that from a health perspective, from a public works perspective, meaning the hazards that are still there with our fire partners, we cannot let people in until we believe, and that's a collective decision, not just the sheriff, until everybody's safe. And I say that, but every day I look at a map that's sent to me, and we are repopulating areas. And every day, the thousands of people who are under evacuation orders substantially drops. The people who are under evacuation warning substantially drops. That's good news. We're getting towards where we need to be. The obvious question is, well, give me a date. I don't want to do that. You've suffered so much, and if I tell you in 3 days and it doesn't happen, I don't want to disappoint you like that. We are shooting for hopefully sometime by the end of next week, but I'm hoping that's if we don't have any more significant issues or challenges with the weather, more fire, God forbid, or rain. All those factors come into play. Why? Because we don't want to lose any more lives, and that becomes extremely important. I do just want to quickly talk about, we were talking about missing persons and the unfortunate fact that we have found remains for 17 people. We still do continue searches. CAL FIRE came up here and talked about search and rescue operations where we're doing it in unified command. Some of that portion of that work is concluded, but we still have missing folks. So I have homicide detectives who are coordinating with the medical examiner's office with cadaver dogs, and they're coming back in to do third and fourth searches. Why are we doing that? Because we owe the families that have reported their loved ones missing every effort possible to make sure that we're able to identify where those remains are. And even then, as we let all of you back in, I'm going to have to make this unfortunate announcement that says, if you go back to your property and you do locate remains, contact us immediately so we can go back out there and try and figure things out. Those are warnings that we're going to be putting out. Switching gears now to issues more directly related to the enforcement part of our job. It's sad that I have to talk about the enforcement part of it because so many of our deputies were involved in the humanitarian efforts of this crisis, and we still are. But in regards to arrest and things of that nature, we have made a total of 39 arrests just in the Eaton fire area. 11 of those have been for burglary. Many of the other arrests we've made have been for a variety of charges. Our deputy sheriffs have been very proactive, and as you're aware, there is still a curfew from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. But what we also do is we stop people during the day. And although there is not an effective curfew, we go off of a penal code section that we use for areas that have been evacuated by an order so we can stop people, tell you with a warning, don't come back, and if you come back and you have no business being there, meaning you're not a resident, we can arrest you. And that has happened either at night or during the day. We're arresting people for possession of narcotics, possession of guns. None of them lived anywhere close to this area. We will continue that work. Why? Because we don't want you impacted or re-victimized in a completely different manner. That is very important. Please know this, that from the first days of this incident, as the regional mutual aid coordinator for my area, I did request the National Guard. They have been awesome, from the governor down to the chief of the Office of Emergency Services, through the commissioner of the California Highway Patrol. Everyone has offered their assistance. We are using hundreds of their resources who will be here until we are done. I also need you to know that along with that, I have been in communication with the district attorney, with the state attorney general, with the U.S. attorney of this area, and I want you to know that there is a joint regional fire crimes task force that was formed last week that the Los Angeles County Sheriff's is part of, and that's for any crime that occurs, and I'm not just talking about burglary, looting, which you hear a lot of, but any scams that could be involved. And this is where I give everybody a warning. There are people out there who are going to try and take advantage of you, and I want to make sure that doesn't happen. And if it does, I want to make sure that they get arrested and prosecuted, whether they are attorneys or telling you they're going to do something, general contractors, whatever that may be, trying to scam you into making you pay more rent, whatever that is a top priority. I do want to just go back and really quickly touch on the curfew issue. I've gotten a lot of questions that ask, can family members or friends come in to the areas to help us out? As much as I would like to tell you that I'd like to see that done, I don't want to complicate everybody's life even more than it is. And we are asking for identification for people that are coming in to make sure that they are residences that live here. Why are we doing that? Because if I could put you at a fixed post with one of our law enforcement, whether it's a deputy sheriff, CHP officer, or National Guardsman, the stories they're being told at these checkpoints are amazing. The things people make up to try and get into these areas. And we keep on telling people, if you don't live there, you don't have valid ID to get in, you're not getting in. Now, I understand there's a gray area that could occur, meaning this. If I have an elderly couple that needs to get into their property and they need help, contact the Altadena Sheriff's Station. We'll figure things out together. If we start getting overwhelmed, we'll figure that out too. But I don't want people in these areas that don't belong. Although it wasn't this fire, we have arrested 3 individuals for impersonating firemen already, separate incidences, and 2 individuals for impersonating media that weren't the media to try and get into these kind of areas. That is not acceptable. That's why we're challenging people and asking them questions like that. So if you don't mind, I'm going to tell you all the stories I heard about Jabari the night of this incident and him, and how many lives him and the deputies, along with our county fire partners, saved. If he can just come up here, just really quick, please, and just tell you a quick story, and then quickly, if there's any questions I didn't answer that you have, we can jump on those together.
Yes, sir. I'm Jabari Williams, captain of Altadena Sheriff Station. That night, it was very long night, long day. It blurred into the next. At some point, I didn't even know what time it was. I'm pretty sure all of the first responders felt the same way. But one thing I'm very proud of, our personnel, our deputy personnel, were coming into work without me asking them to do so, even though they were off. That just shows the dedication they have to serving the community. And I was very proud to see that. As the fire got close to the station, things got very, very scary. But the deputies did what they could to evacuate the areas around the station, and I truly believe they saved so many lives by helping those people get out of the area. I'd like to give a shout out to Pasadena Transit. They were on the spot to help transport a lot of the peoples from the senior citizen area, Montecedro. And without them, it would have been very difficult to get that many people out of that area. One thing I remember is looking up at the sky. It must have been about probably 7 in the morning, and it was still so dark. I still thought it was nighttime. It wasn't until the winds pushed that smoke away that I realized we had worked all the way through the night into the day. It was just a long night. But I do want to say our deputies at Altadena Station and the Sheriff's Department were dedicated to sticking with the community as we work through this. We aren't going anywhere. A lot of our personnel are taking this very personal, and we're here to serve you no matter how long it takes. I just want to make sure everyone gets a brochure. We have them, plenty of them. It's filled with plenty of information that's needed. Two good websites I just want to mention: protect.genesis.com. Genesis is spelled GENASYS.com. And then, of course, recovery.lacounty.gov. These are two great websites people can go to find out the resources that are available and great information, especially when it comes to whether their area is a evacuation order or warning. And as the sheriff said, as these areas become open, we will be there doing patrols. Sometimes you'll see us, sometimes you won't, but just know that we will be in that area. Thank you.
Yeah, forgive me if I didn't answer that. I want to expand on that. When I spoke to our both incident management teams that are covering both fires, I made it very clear to them that as we start dropping back on some of these intersections that we're covering because of repopulation, that a lot of the deputies are actually going to stay here in these neighborhoods to make sure, one, that if they're needed by any of you, that they're available. Two, that if anybody comes up here with bad intent, they're going to have to deal with both uniformed personnel and undercover deputies. So if you see anybody suspicious, please call us right away, but it may be a deputy that you're looking at. Number three, that even if you just see somebody in uniform, man, you just need a hug. We've told them, just be out, get out of your cars, engage our community at a different level. So like we've said multiple times, we are here, we're proud to be here with you, and we're going to serve you. And we're going to see this through together. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That's going to complete our question and answer. This is a new format for us. I believe we addressed all the questions. Please do keep coming in. We will have a virtual meeting tomorrow night at 4 p.m. Thank you and have a good evening.